problem is consciousness.
Sorry, didn't catch that.
The problem is consciousness. It's also important for rebirth and for rebirth.
Yes.
If we think about matter, about mass of human body, it's preserved. We can make mass balance and the mass after death, so when the body is burned, becomes ashes and gas, and it's exactly the same what was before. The heat is also preserved. The heat is lost and come to environment. But consciousness is something different. It's actually a process which depends on the structure. So it cannot be preserved. For example, this house, this building, has something from the consciousness of the architect. But if you destroy it, it's just a heap of stones and nothing from original, the beautiful structure of the building is preserved. But rebirth actually means that something of the consciousness comes to another human being which is reborn. So
comes, comes, is it? Because one can't help using that expression, but again, one mustn't take it literally, because consciousness, being non-spatial, neither comes nor goes. But if one does take it literally, well then all sorts of problems arise, and I suspect that it's one of those problems that is going to arise now. You see what I mean?
Not exactly.
Because, well, if one starts with the idea of a consciousness that comes and goes, well, already one in a sense is falsifying the notion of consciousness, because consciousness is non-spatial. It doesn't occupy space. So yes, it doesn't come and it doesn't go. So if then one proceeds to ask a question in such terms as, well, when consciousness goes, or if consciousness goes, then one must be very careful that one is not, basing one's question on a literal understanding of that expression. Because one might say the body disintegrates, but from the point of view of the consciousness, in a sense, nothing happens. One could, with caution, use the expression that the consciousness is disconnected from the body. Though, of course, that might raise, if one isn't given all sorts of questions, well, exactly how is it connected, and at what point is it connected, and so on. But if, nonetheless, one cautiously uses the expression, well, the consciousness becomes disconnected from the body, then one can understand that the body, may drop off and may disintegrate, but in a sense, from the standpoint of consciousness itself, nothing has happened. And certainly the consciousness doesn't go anywhere.
But it can disappear. It can disappear.
It can cease, its existence can cease to be inferred. I very nearly said it can cease to be perceived, but that wouldn't have been quite right. Its existence ceases to be inferred, because you never actually see somebody else's consciousness. You only infer its existence, from what you know about, the relation of your own consciousness, so to speak, to your own body. You never actually see somebody else's consciousness. Well, you might have done. I personally haven't. I see your bodies, but I don't see your consciousness. I infer the existence of consciousnesses behind your bodies, because that's my own experience. I experience my own consciousness in a manner of speaking within my body, and not accessible to you, not directly accessible. So this is really quite a mystery, this whole question of the relationship between, body and mind and body. And the Theravada view, of course, is that mind depends upon body and body depends upon mind. They leave it just at that. To come back to a point you made, it is not the Buddhist view that that consciousness is simply a particular structure, of the body, yeah? Or that the term consciousness, merely represents the arrangement of material factors in a particular way. That is not the Buddhist view. Well, we can infer, that the bodily things that we say we perceive are connected, with a consciousness in the same way, that our own consciousness, which we experience personally, is connected, with our own body. But we never perceive anybody's consciousness. We only infer the existence of it. Except perhaps in supernormal states we can directly perceive, but normally we don't. We just infer that it's there. We reason it out. So we only perceive it directly as it were our own consciousness. I think what we mainly have to realize is that most of the time we are actually misled by words, and we use words in a quite satisfactory way, for ordinary practical purposes. If I say, well, please pass the salt or whatever, well, there's no difficulty at all. We understand exactly what is meant, react accordingly, and the request is met. But when we start, applying, that same language to questions of what we call, reality, then we come up against all sorts of difficulties. So we have to be aware of the limitations of language and be aware more of what it is we're trying to do with language, say when we discuss philosophical questions. Because some of them, at least it seems, can just be resolved to, or reduced to what I call semantic difficulties. I don't think all of them. It'd be rather sad if that was the case. So I therefore sort of in a way plead for a greater, more vivid realization of the poetic nature of speech. I used to discuss this with some of my rather literal-minded students, Nepalese students in Kalimpong. I think I've done it in this country too. I mean, take that first line of Shelley, Shelley's Ode to the Skylark. Hail to thee, blithe spirit, bird thou never wert. So Shelley is saying that, addressing the skylark, that you were never a bird. But does Shelley mean that to be taken literally? I mean, the ornithologist would certainly register a process. The skylark, not a bird. If the skylark isn't a bird, well, please tell me what on earth it is. It's not a human being, it's not an elephant, or an ant. What does Shelley mean by saying a skylark is not a bird and never was a bird? How ridiculous, he knows nothing about ornithology whatever. So if you take Shelley's statement literally or scientifically, yes, it's nonsense. But what does he really mean when he says to the skylark, hail to thee, blithe spirit? Leave aside the blithe spirit bit, was borrowed by Noel Card, I think. The title of that messy little operetta. Leave that aside. Bird thou never wert. You were never a bird. It's an illusion that you're a bird. So clearly, Shelley is taking the skylark, without it ceasing to be a skylark, as just a symbol, to put it very crudely, of something else. And he's trying to, by saying that the skylark was never a skylark, he's trying to awaken in the reader some sense of what it is, the skylark, for him, represents or symbolizes. But you can't take that statement literally. So I think this ought to be, our approach to language all the time, because language, as applied to non-material realities, is essentially metaphorical, and that's poetry rather than prose.